Hi there again, long time no see. This is Fio's technical translator Joseph Young reporting on the newest developments of the X5. As some of you may know, the X5 is already selling in China right now and will be available worldwide sometime between March and April. I've received an engineering sample of the player and would like to show you a bit more of the X5's interface in action. Firstly, a look at the interface elements on the body of the player. Here you see the player's LCD screen on top and the main control group at the bottom. The big news, of course, is the mechanical scroll wheel, which lets you scroll through song lists and change volume much more quickly. Like I said, what I've got here is an engineering sample, so you've got to take my word for it that the units now selling have a different surface to the scroll wheel. This Reno groove thing I've got here looked real nice, but wasn't so nice to actually turn. My fingers would slip off every now and then. The production units are shipping with a smooth rubber surface to the wheel, sort of like what you get on the big disc on a DJ console. Now we'll be calling this button in the middle the OK button. This button on the upper left is the shortcuts key, brings up a list of shortcuts. This button on the upper right is the back button, brings you back up the menu tree. This here is the previous button, brings up the previous song. This here is the next button for next song. Here are the volume keys: headphone output port, line out port, coaxial digital output port, and of course the power button, which doubles as the key lock button. Not shown here is the dual micro SD card slots at the bottom. Yeah, they're very pretty, but I forgot to film them. I made this video in one night, so excuse the omission. Now let's press that power button and power on the player. We see a short boot animation. I believe this will be open to customization later. Now, the first time you power on the player, you'll see a list of UI languages to choose from. Since this is an English video, we'll just use the scroll wheel to choose English and press the OK button to choose it. Now we go into the main menu, where turning the scroll wheel brings you through the various options. Before we start playing music, we'd want to scan the SD card I loaded for music. To do that, I go to System Settings, here. And we scroll to Update Media Library and press the OK button to start scanning. It takes a little while the first time around. As long as the spinning disc keeps spinning, it's okay to keep waiting. Okay, it's done. Now I'd like to set the media library update thing to auto. You can do that by pressing the previous or next button to change this option to auto, like this, and done. Now next time you connect the X5 to the computer to transfer songs, you would know to update the library automatically afterwards. Of course, this is a digital auto player, not a mind reader, so if you do something unexpected like changing SD cards, you still have to update the library manually as shown here. Okay, let's play some music. We got to play by category, and we press the OK button. Here you get to choose between playing all songs, choosing from a list of albums, a list of artists, or a list of genres. Let's choose album. Let's say we choose Crime of the Century by Supertramp. Really nice rock CD, by the way, great mastering. Press OK and you get shown a list of the songs in the album. We'll just pick a song and we enter the now playing screen, which is, by the way, able to display lyrics and album art, but I never got around to setting that up. I mean, when I used to play, I'm either in bed with my eyes closed or on the street with my eyes on, well, the streets, or my mobile phone. But that's just me. Now I'll press the shortcuts key to bring up a context menu. This brings up a short list of things to do. The heart symbol is for adding the song to your favorites. There's a favorites menu in the main menu where all your favorite songs are stored and you can play them all at once. Okay, I love this song. Bloody well right. Okay, let's look at the shortcuts menu again. The icons in the middle stand for different play modes. You know, loop the playlist, shuffle, loop a single song. There's a delete button you can use for deleting the song. I won't touch that here. Now if you turn the scroll wheel in the now playing screen, you get to quickly see a list of songs before and after the currently playing song in the album, and you can cut to another song quickly. Okay, let's choose the titular song of the album. Oh, I love this song too. Another way to choose songs is by browsing files. First you'll be asked to choose the card you want to play from. Right now it's just slots 1 and slot 2. With the firmware updates will come the ability to play from on-the-go storage as well. Anyway, let's choose slot 1. Here you'll be shown a list of folders on the card, and the way to navigate this is similar to the Explorer on Windows or Finder on a Mac. I've organized the folders on my SD card so that each folder is an album. You're of course free to organize this any way you want. And here's the scroll wheel in action again, letting me choose another song in the folder quickly. Now I'll press back to back out of the screen. One press brings me up one level. Holding down the button brings me directly back to the main menu. Here's the equalizer on the X5. On the X3 you had a bass and treble control in hardware. This time on the X5 you have a 10-band graphic equalizer. We've worked hard to make this as transparent as the hardware EQ on the X3. We are aware of the calls for parametric EQ and we may add that in the future. Anyway, you press the previous and the next buttons down here to switch between presets, but one of the presets is called Custom, and you're of course allowed to run wild with this so-called preset. The way to operate this is to use the scroll wheel to choose between EQ bands and the OK button to select a band. The slider turns red, and you use the scroll wheel again to move the slider up and down, and when you like what you're hearing, you press OK again to fix the slider, and then you can move on another slider with the scroll wheel again. Press OK to select and change with the scroll wheel, OK to store the change. Finally, the back button gets you out of the EQ menu. This player was powered on with the factory defaults just now, and the factory defaults are a little conservative. There are a few advanced features you can enable that usually make the player easier to use. If the player starts catching fire or something, you can always turn them back off. So I'll start with the play settings. Here you see the resume mode is set to off. You can set it to the last song or the last position. Last position, remember, is exactly where you were up to when you turned the player off, and picks up where you left off. Gapless playback means playing multiple track performances without gaps in between the tracks. You can turn this on. The X5 supports gapless playback whether you play by folders or albums. Now let's go to the system settings. Here's the language setting. You can change this anytime you want. I mentioned that you can change the media library update setting to auto to speed things up when you add or remove songs from the X5. Now, key lock settings. By default, all the keys are locked when you lock the player by pressing the power button, so you'd have to unlock the player to change volume or change tracks. There's an alternative setting here that lets you change volume with the volume buttons here. Pause, previous track, next track. I'd recommend using this setting. Now I get this question a lot. Someone may be trying to read and write songs to the X5 and ask me why his computer won't show the X5. Or he might be trying to use the X5 as a DAC, and again he would ask why his player won't show the X5. The answer usually is you have to set the right USB mode before connecting to the computer. By default it's storage, so you have to change it to DAC if you want to use the X5 as a DAC. Oh, and install the drivers if you're using a Windows computer. Now if you want to read and write songs to a card on the X5, remember to change this back to storage before connecting to the computer. About X5. You see some info about the player, cards inserted in the player, how much room you have, etc. Turn the scroll wheel and you'll see some copyright stuff. Oh, I translated that stuff, give it a good read. But seriously, here's something that might be more useful. A quick starts guide is stored on the player itself in case you can't find your way around the player. Oh, I translated that too. Formats. The X5 isn't that picky about card formats. You can use FAT32 or NTFS SD cards, but if you have trouble finding a card of the right format, you can always format the card on the X5 itself. Obviously, my card is already in the right format, so I'd want to press back here to cancel this operation. Finally, remember what I said about the player catching fire? Just in case you find that your settings are making the player behave wonky, you can always reset to factory defaults with this setting. Pressing the power button briefly locks the player. Remember that I've set it so I can still change the volume and change tracks while the screen is locked. Anyway, pressing it again unlocks the player. Oh, and here's the volume control dialog. That button I pressed changed the volume by one step. Now with the dialog open, I can turn the scroll wheel to change the volume much more quickly. Finally, holding down the power button, of course, turns off the player. Well, I hope I've covered the basics of using the player, so you've got an idea what to expect if you're thinking about buying this player and haven't got a place to demo it. Though I must say, with the ongoing X5 World Tour, we're doing a good job of letting almost everyone demo it already. Haha. This was Fio's technical translator, Joseph Young, reporting on the UI of the X5. I hope you liked this video. Goodbye.